In this section, we are going to talk about strings. Strings, we saw previously that we are printing a string in the console log by defining it between the quotation, single or double quotation. But now let's remove all of this code to have more clean start because I attach this code with the previous section. So at the end of every section, you will see the code which we worked in the whole section. Okay, now I am going to delete it all. And for strings, there are, as we said, multiple methods to define it or define a string. For example, we can say let x will be in a single quotation. We can say this is a string. So in that way, you can define a string. Also, you can define a string in the double quotation as we said. But here Prettier is changing it to double quotation because when we save, Prettier prefer that we have that in double quotation. Of course, we can change those configuration, so Prettier will consider it as single quotation for the string. There is also another way to define a string but using a method. If you remember, we used before number method. This number method letting me to convert some string to a number or anything else. So now we can use as well some word with capital letter which is called string. So in that way you can as well define a string using that method. So I will say here let y, and then I will say this is, or we can say string, and then we open parentheses and we have to specify a value, and this value it's called like for example the string itself which we want to define. So actually it's the same way exactly, but here is more constructive and we call this as a constructor way. But of course the modern way is always to use the equal and directly you can define your string. But here you can say as well like this is a constructive string. So we can add that, and then y will have this value as a string as well. So we can say console log. You can put the word log and it will show you in the suggestions, and you just press enter and it will add for you the whole sentence. Visual Studio Code will take care about it. So we have to put console log x and console log y, and then let's print that value. So we have here this is a string and this is a constructive string. So all of them the same, exactly the same way of defining a string. For me, I prefer this way, which is defining a string in quotation, double quotation, or in a single quotation. In modern JavaScript, there is also possibility to use the backticks. What I mean, backticks is used to have multi-lines of a string. So here in this case, if I do like this, then I will get error because I cannot have multiple lines for this string. But there is definitely a great way to do that. So I can switch those quotation with something called backtick, which is this sign, and also you can close it in the same way. So this is a string will be a string as well, so it will be define a string. So here we have a string, but when you press enter you will not get any error because this is ticks saying that you can have multiple lines string as much as you want. So as you see here, I have this is a string and here I have multiple lines, so it's sensitive for that. It can see all of these lines and it's considered that everything between those ticks will be a string. So now let's refresh and we will see in the console log it's exactly how we have written it in the code. So for that it's very beneficial to use the backticks and also use them for printing long strings, especially if you have a very long line of code and you don't want to put them in, for example, a long line like this. For example, if I have long line, then I will go like this, which is bad for me. So in this way, you can divide your strings to multiple lines and you can have them in the console log like this. So the double quotation actually is not sensitive for multiple lines, because otherwise you will get an error in JavaScript. But backticks is sensitive for that, and everything between the backticks is a string. Okay, if you want to say, like, for example, I want to have a double quotation inside the string, like I want to print in the console log double quotation as well, because if I put here, like, okay, like we can say John said, and then we want to put double quotation, otherwise it will be closed like this. So this is wrong and it's giving me error because the double quotation is a closing for this quotation. So you have one of two options. Maybe you can put this as a single quotation and close it as a single quotation, then the double quotation here will be considered as a string. So in that way, you will have all of this as a string and you will not get error. But if you want to keep the double quotation, you can escape this double quotation. So it will not be considered as a closing to quotation of this. So you just need to put a backslash. So with backslash, you can say that this quotation or double quotation will not be considered as a closing quotation. So here as well. So the one which doesn't have a backslash will be considered as a closing quotation of this. So let's save that and try again. Okay. So here we see that Prettier changed it for us as well. So he says that it's better to do it like this, better than having all of these escape quotations. So in this way, when you want to see it in real, you can disable simply the Prettier. So I'm here asked for reload. So I disabled it. I went to extensions and I disabled it. So now, okay, I save. There is nothing happening. It's not changing the format. Now we save. Okay, we have the quotations, even they are escape quotations. So in that way, you can have the escape letters. So the letters which you need to use inside a strings, and they are a keywords, for example. So let's enable Prettier again. That's it. It's very simple to enable it. You go to extension and you have it installed and you just click on it and you have disable or uninstall, like you can remove it totally. So now Prettier suggested that this is better way to define a quotations inside a quotations. So we have it like that. This is called strings escape notations. So I have here escaping notations. One of escaping notations also, if you remember, I told you in the previous lecture that we cannot put multiple lines for like strings with quotation. You can do that also with escaping quotation. So you can say here, instead of this colon, for example, I put /n. So /n will format me this string with a new line. Let's console log it. And as you see here, I have John said this is a string. So in this way, here n acted like an enter, like a new line. So when we save it like that, so it's all on the same line. So here, how you put lines in a normal string without using backticks. So all of that is possible. There are multiple escaping, for example, escape notations, as I told you, multiple of them. For example, there is the one with the tab. So when you put /t, then it will put distance as 4 spaces of like a tab, you know, like it's like when you press a tab here. So in the same way exactly. And as well, there are many stuff like break space, or for example form lead. There are multiple escape notation. You can Google them and try all of them. So let's say that we have a variable called, we can say before x, we can give a name like let a is like we can give it a name, for example, Smith. So here we have a string called Smith and also x. So in that way, I want to say that John is a friend of Smith. So how I can put here, like, okay, we have here Smith, but how I can put the variable on instead of Smith. So I can say here, John is a friend of A. But as you see here, it's considered as a string. So when I print it, it's A. So how I can say that this is a variable, not a string? It's very simple. There are also operations on the strings. Like how we have with the number, there is addition, like a plus. And with this plus, you can put a variable after it. So I have here a string plus that variable, then it will join those two strings together. So when I say here, I will say John is a friend of Smith, but here there is no space. So I need to put space after the of, or you can add another plus and you put two quotations or two double quotations and space in them. So in that way, you will have John is a friend of Smith. So with this way, you will have possibility to be able to join, we can say, the strings together. There is also another great way which is modern in JavaScript, and it's really great as a modern JavaScript, and most of people prefer it nowadays. So what is it? So if I change those to backticks, I switch here to the backticks, and then I don't have to put plus a. I can use this form like dollar and then curved brackets, something like that, and here I can put the variable. So inside these brackets, I will have variable. I can write JavaScript code. So you can put here whatever you want with is JavaScript, because you used the backticks with those $sign and the curved brackets. So when you save, go here again, you will have the same result. So it's exactly the same way. So when you repeat it multiple times, it will be the same way. As you see, you can put it also at beginning, anywhere in a string. So with that way, it's very nice to combine variables with strings, or combine JavaScript strings with JavaScript code. So this is the end of this lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. This is very modern and very nice to use always that way to combine strings. It's better to not use like this plus and then a. No, I prefer to use like the $sign and curved brackets. Okay, in this lecture we are going to see what are the methods of the strings. If you remember, we had some comments for the number, like changing it to string or changing it to some specific way or specific format, and we are going to have now the same for the strings. So exactly how we did with a number, we put here a dot, and then we got all the methods which are possible to have for the numbers, we can have as well here for the strings. I will go with the easiest one and then go step by step to the bigger one or to the more heavier one. So first of all, we can have a console log directly of a method of a string inside the console log. Like, you don't have to create a variable. Like I can say here let length, and then I say x dot length, for example. So in this way I am going to print length. You can use the methods directly in the console log. So by the way, this length is giving me the length of this string. So how many letters inside this strings. So let's try to print that, and we will see that it has 25 characters including the spaces. So this is for the X. Also, there are another methods. Let's have a console log for them, for each of them. So I will have here x dot, and we can have, for example, char at. So we can have here char at, and when you open parentheses and you put a number, it will give you the letter in that place of that number. So it will count from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. So let's put 3. I think we will get n. So when I put 3 like here, give me the char character at the third position. So when I save, go here, I got n. So in this way you can get a specific character from a string. Let's console log something else. So you can as well here use the backticks method. So you can also use the normal combination. So I can say here that char at 3. So for example, and then I put a plus. So in the output, it will be char at 3, it will be n. So you can put here also colon to be sure, like this. Okay, char at 3 is n. So we can name our methods, all of them like this. So let's copy this one and pick up another method. So I can say here as well x dot concat. X dot concat, it will concat a string, like it's exactly how we did with this equal. So I will concat this string with another string. For example, we can say here a variable like this one, Smith. So I concat x with a. So we can say here not char at, but we say concat. So we save, we refresh, concat, John is a friend of Smith. So here we had the 2 times because we had a here already, and also we concated it with another a. So we got also Smith. So we can add also here our own string. So we can have here something like and like Peter. So we can save, go here, we will say John is a friend of Smith, contact or concat, and Peter. So you can also put space here. So X got combined with and Peter. So it's exactly like this way. Okay, let's move to another method. So let's copy this console log. Again, another method. So you can say here like x dot index of, and you can give some character. So you can say I want index of O. So it will see the first occurrence of O, like here in John, and return its value. So we can say here index of, and then we say here O, and we save. Index of O, the first occurrence of O is at the position 1. So 0, 1. So we have here John. So let's have here, for example, F. So I can have here F, F. So the first occurrence is at the 10th position of F in this X variable. Remember, I am using the X variable. When you want to see the latest occurrence, so I will go here to console log, and I am going to add last index of. So last index of F. Let's see. So here we can replace it as well, and we will see it's 18 because here I have F and here I have F. So in that way I got at the beginning first happened or first occurrence and the second or latest occurrence of F. There is also a great method which is called replace. So we can say replace all F's for me with X. So you can say here replace. So after that, we have to put x dot replace all f with x. So instead of John is a friend, it will be x friend. So as you see here, so John is x friend of Smith, and it's changed only the first occurrence as well because this f isn't changed. There is also another method which is called to uppercase. So you can also use or change the sentence to uppercase. So I will say here just to uppercase, and you don't have to pass any value for that command. So we can have here to uppercase of x. So we save and we refresh, and we will see to uppercase, and as you see here it got to uppercase. There are multiple methods of strings. You can check them. They are very easy. I put exactly an example. I attached it with this lecture or in the next lecture with the code which I wrote here, so you can try them by yourself. Most of them, they are easy, but there are some of them which we will see later in the next lectures when we talk about arrays and objects. I will attach this cheat sheet for you so you can read it and try things around. Most of them are easy, and don't worry totally.